It's International Women and Girls in Science Day. We're celebrating the critical roles that women play in STEM fields. One of the most recognized and trusted scientists is Dr. Lucy Jones. She spoke to me about the challenges she's faced in her career and has some advice for young girls.
My father was an aerospace engineer and really encouraged me in science.
Dr. Lucy Jones is a world-renowned seismologist, and she discovered her career goals at a young age.
It's one small step for man.
I watched the moon landing with him. He had worked on part of that project when one of his pieces of equipment was there going to the moon. And I told him then that I was going to become an astrophysicist and live on the moon.
But her dreams were nearly denied. Being a woman scientist was rare. She felt support at home, but at school,
I remember a teacher telling me I needed to stop showing I was so good in math or the boys wouldn't like me. And yeah, that's the sort of thing teachers said in the 60s. And my answer was sort of like, they aren't going to like me anyway. I might as well at least show them up.
Unshaken, Lucy continued her STEM track and majored in physics at Brown University. 1 year before graduating, she shifted her plans.
I met a couple of geophysicists at a breakfast in my dorm, and they were like, physics is building bombs. Geophysics is playing in the mountains and getting paid for it. And they got me interested enough to take my first geology class. It was my senior year. I was hooked. When I entered grad school at MIT, I was the only woman in geophysics.
She got her PhD in 1981, and at 24, was the first American scientist to go to China after normalization of relations. She started working with the U.S. Geological Survey at Caltech in Pasadena 2 years later. Despite her shining resume, she was treated differently than the male scientists.
One of the problems was, it was more sort of as I got visible, things like being called earthquake lady rather than seismologist. If I was dressed nicely, that first decade that I was out here in Pasadena, I'd get treated like a secretary. I had to wear shorts and lousy t-shirts to show that I was a geologist.
It is not on the San Andreas Fault.
Even more challenging, being a mother and a seismologist. At a press conference for the Joshua Tree earthquake in 1992, she became a news headline when doing interviews carrying her son. Her husband also worked at Caltech.
He literally handed me the baby in the middle of an interview because there was a computer crisis that he had to go deal with. There were a lot of newspaper reports about it, and it was the sort of symbol of working motherhood. The few people in Los Angeles who actually did experience Northridge as a big earthquake. For most of the rest of us, it wasn't.
Dr. Jones, though, found steady ground balancing work and home life. She focused on earthquake and natural disaster resilience and developed the Great Shakeout, the first American earthquake drill, one of her many achievements. And while she didn't make it to the moon, she did become Southern California's rock star.
Even though women have made progress in STEM fields, they are still underrepresented. Just 30% of researchers worldwide are women. Dr. Jones' advice to young girls is to stick with it early, especially with math, which is a fundamental tool. And